You're listening to the Fan2Fan Podcast, and on this episode, we're doing a Monster Mania grab bag. That's right, get ready to hear about trucks, an iconic football team, a classic TV show, and more. Here we go. Welcome back to the Fan2Fan Podcast. One of your hosts, Bernie Gonzalez. With me, as always, fellow co-host Pete Charbonneau. Pete, folks may not be aware, but I'm pretty sure if they subscribe to the podcast, and they should, that we've been talking about a lot of monsters.
We've done it, folks. So we thank you for being along for this journey with us. And I hope you out there listening, I hope your ears are waxed and ready as we wax poetic about just this episode is going to be a grab bag of all the monster related things that we haven't got to in the 627 previous episodes. And it's going to encompass all sorts of products, pop culture. There'll be some fun stuff in there.
Have a cookie, a munchy monster cookie. They're shaped like little monsters, and they come in 6 great flavors. With milk or lunch or as a snack, there's monster money on every pack. 6 great flavors can't be beat. They're the only monsters people eat. Monster cookies, they're everywhere.
All right, so you and I grew up at a time, Pete, of local channels. And I think a lot of the, uniqueness of some of these local channels that we grew up with was in their programming. And the fact that they were either replaying shows that we were somewhat aware of, maybe just doing reruns of old Godzilla flicks because it was cheap for them to get the catalog of a bunch of Godzilla flicks.
An old friend is back. For a stomp down memory lane. Godzilla 85.
Saturday night at 11:30 on 45 TV.
And then on occasion, those flicks would have commercials in them for your local used car dealership, for a local restaurant. And those were charming and kooky and crazy and incredibly memorable.
We have a secret at Range Chevrolet. We think even General Motors doesn't know about it. It's called Spectrum, and it could be yours for only $149 a month. Spectrum, see the secret revealed at Range Chevrolet 666 El Camino Real in Sunnyvale.
And who am I to argue with Dracula?
You're certainly not of the status to go against Dracula.
I do think the one thing about these types of commercials and just the pop culture that kind of fueled our childhood, monsters were synonymous. And you could have a law firm commercial, a late night commercial that could piggyback on monsters because they were just known. It's a known entity. You could riff on the Frankenstein monster, and it didn't matter if you were in New York, on Long Island, or I was in Chicago. We all knew what the Frankenstein monster was. And if there's a used car lot that's using the Frankenstein monster to sell a few extra cars, I get it. I understand. They also weren't the only people that used monsters to sell, to pimp their wares, as it were.
I have to think that the green face paint makeup for the Frankenstein's monster back then might have had some toxic chemicals in it. I think today you'd probably be a lot safer slathering that all over your face and hands. Back then, maybe taking a little bit more of a risk, but that's just what you did. It was DIY for a lot of those commercials. And I think a lot of times those local commercials, people were just having fun with it. Like oftentimes I have to think it was their first foray into advertising that was not print-based in like a local newspaper or something like that. So with the advent of television and as being able to cut a TV promo with a local company became financially viable for some of these local businesses, you just saw, like you're saying, just like a wide range of just random stuff to hawk and sell their business.
Welcome to Store 24, Halloween Party Headquarters. We got slinky costumes, funky accessories, delicious makeup, scary masks, and the most delectable pastries like fake blood. It's not the real thing, but it ain't bad. You see, I never drink live, but I might drink you. Come see me at Store 24 for all your Halloween party needs. I got it at Store 24.
I feel like the Dracula, the Frankenstein's monster, that's like pretty shorthand stuff. It doesn't cost much to get the Dracula cape and maybe a pendant or whatever. You get the guy with the darkest hair to just slick back his hair, maybe put some fake fangs on him and maybe some white face paint to look a little pale. And there you go. You don't need a whole lot of hair and makeup. You're off and running. Just bang your hand on the hood of a car and let the sails roll on in. I would love to have been in on gathering the staff together and having the owner or whatever just be like, hey, we're thinking of doing something here, and just can you all give me your best Transylvanian accent, and then deciding who was going to be the winner of that particular contest.
One of our monsters has dared the others to spend a night in Haunted Wood. They've got some monster munch, the only snack big enough to see them through the night ahead. Of course, they're too big to be scared, but even big, brave monsters get frightened. Sometimes. And this is one of those times. So it was all a big trick. Wasn't it?
We'll start off with something that's probably a little more adjacent to what we have been talking about and what we're usually talking about, which is movies. And we've talked a lot of monster movies. We talked Godzilla, we talked Kaiju, we've talked Atomic Age monsters. This is actually a movie, but I thought a unique twist to it. And it's a movie called Prophecy. It came out in the 80s, not The Prophecy.
Out there is a mindless, merciless creature of destruction. She will find you. Prophecy, the monster movie. Rated PG.
See Prophecy, now showing at a theater near you.
The tagline for the movie was simply The Monster Movie, which is okay. So now you've got most 12 to 14-year-old kids to be like, they've got my attention. But this movie it's something. It's an 80s eco-horror movie. Armand Assante plays a Native American. Incredible. Talia Shire, probably fresh off of one of the Rocky movies, Rocky 1 or 2. And then I think Robert Foxworth was the main lead, but it's super serious because it's got the eco-horror message. The pollution is happening with some paper mill in, I want to say it's the Pacific Northwest from what I remember, but it's all undercut by the fact that there is a giant mutant bear running around killing people. And if anyone has seen this or has heard of it, its infamous scene takes place where the bear dispatches with a hapless family camping in the woods by whipping their sleeping bag with the kids and the family inside up against a tree, and it cuts to the downy feathers of the sleeping bag just slowly falling, descending in shot. Completely ridiculous, and that is the really lasting memory most, if not every person has.
I do think that maybe Jason Voorhees saw this because he might have gotten an idea for that duffel bag beating.
It is very Friday the 13th adjacent with that. It's very similar. When I'm parched, Bernie, I like to reach for a Monster energy drink to quench my thirst and just get me jacked up on 850,000 grams of sugar, and that gets me through my workday.
I'm afraid of monsters.
There's no such thing as monsters.
I'm just so tired.
Kate! Pull it together, Bill!
I don't have the energy I used to.
That's why you have to drink Monster Energy Drink. It's made for us. All right, let's get back to work.
My monster adjacent experience was when I lived in Boston, and I'd be out there was this night called The Pill that my friends and I would go to. A couple of my other friends used to DJ at, and it was basically your Britpop mod dance night, mostly Britpop though, and just had a blast while I was living my Arrested Development mid to late 30s and getting home at 8 o'clock in the morning some nights. But my buddy Chris and I would drink towards the end of the night, and I don't know why, because I'm not particularly a vodka fan, but we would get Red Bull and vodkas because that was like the thing to do. And then we're on the dance floor doing our thing, night ends. And then I would start waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning with my heart literally beating through my chest because of the jolt that when it would finally kick in. And that really scared the shit out of me. So I stopped doing that and would not drink Red Bull and vodkas ever again.
That would definitely throw a wrench, Pete, into your plans the following day if you were up late and say, for example, on your docket, on your calendar, was to go to a baseball game. And in the spirit of transitions, let's say you were going to a minor league team. And I think we know that minor league teams have a little bit more fun in their naming. You have the Akron Rubber Ducks, the Montgomery Biscuits, of course, the now popular Savannah Bananas. But I think you found a team that's out there, creative, maybe even monstrous in its name.
It's hockey. This team doesn't exist anymore. I should say the team exists, but the name has changed. So growing up again in Boston, if you take a short drive out to the west, there was a town called Lowell, and Lowell had a American Hockey League affiliate called the Lowell Lock Monsters for many years.
I've seen many things, but nothing compares to what happened tonight in the rematch between the Admirals and the Lowell Lock Monsters. Just watch. End of the first period, Lock Monster and Admirals players and coaches on the ice. Reports an Admirals player was speared by a Lowell player. That even got Trent Yardy, the head coach, Mr. Mild-mannered himself, into the fight. And yes, everybody got into it. Even the goaltenders got into it, if you can believe it. Look at this. It's like watching elephants fight when you see two goaltenders go. When things calmed down, over 119 minutes in penalties, several players on both sides, both head coaches tossed out, all before the eyes of the league president, Dave Andrews, who just happened to be in attendance tonight at Scope. I'm sure there'll be plenty of suspensions and fines come next week.
You go to a minor league hockey game, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles of the big time, the major leagues, the NHL, but there's a little more of a community feel to it. Smaller town can-do attitude that goes along with it. So the Lock Monsters, now the Lowell Devils, they are the affiliate of the New Jersey Devils. But at the time, my friends and I would occasionally drive out to Lowell because the tickets were a lot cheaper than going to see the Bruins. But the story that I want to relay, and it's a quick one, pretty much every professional sports now has between whistle entertainment, and the Lock Monsters were no different. And they had this character, and I say character, I'm not talking about a mascot, I'm talking about an actual person whose nickname was Downtown Freddie Brown. And with every whistle, Freddie Brown would run onto the ice without skates, mind you. He would just run around. He looked a little bit like Shelley from Friday the 13th, Part 3. He had a lot of curls. But he had the helmet and he had the jersey, and he'd be like throwing T-shirts into the stands and just running around like a complete lunatic. And then you get to the end of the TV timeout or whatever it is, he's got to run off the ice. And this one time he's running to get to the exit. He decides to do just a headfirst slide across the ice and just mistimed his slide, went shoulder first into the open board where the Zamboni comes out. And you could see him just, I don't mean to laugh at the man's pain because ultimately he was okay, but he didn't stick the landing. Let's just put it that way. And Downtown Freddie Brown was clutching his shoulder as he hobbled off the ice, and we saw it happening. We saw it develop. I'm sorry, but it was really fucking funny. And to this day, we still talk about Downtown Freddie Brown of the Lowell Lock Monsters.
That's right. I'm putting my hand in the bag, and I'm going to throw one out there that's a little bit more obvious, and that's the Munsters. So the Munsters were this classic 1960s sitcom, blended what we have grown up with as the traditional American suburban family, but it had the hijinks, the comedy. But with the monster characters that we also grew up with, like Frankenstein monster, you had Dracula, the Bride of Frankenstein in a way. There was the creature from the Black Lagoon that I'm pretty sure was
cousin or the uncle.
Yeah, that's right. So, and I think this is for people that aren't aware of this show. It really is very much like a sitcom where you get all the lighthearted moral lessons at the end. You had Butch Patrick that played Eddie Munster. And I'd probably say he was maybe in the 9-10 years old range. And he's a kid who's dealing with kid problems. Also, he's a werewolf kid. So he's going to school and he's got show and tell. And some of the stuff that he's showing, of course, is freaking the hell out of the rest of his class and the teacher who might come for a parent-teacher conference to the house just to find that his family lives in a Gothic mansion with a dragon that lives under the stairs and a Beverly Owen, or later Pat Priest, Marilyn Munster, who played his sister, who was the most normal, quote-unquote, person, family member in this house. But when I think of the Munsters, Pete, I think of the stuff that we grew up with, like Dick Van Dyke, Bewitched, Gilligan's Island, Beverly Hillbillies. It's part of that, but with the spookiness added to the suburbs.
It was pretty ubiquitous for me growing up in New York. It was on pretty much every day with that group that you talked about. It was like Gilligan's Island, the Munsters, Flipper, Gentle Ben, the Addams Family, who it's cousins with in a way. The Addams Family is more like the highbrow, intellectual comedy, and the Munsters is more just
it's honeymooners, it's all that. And it's funny, ironically, the Addams Family and Munsters premiered in the same year, and yet they had that tonal difference between the two of them. Another one that I found in my research is the Frankenstones, which was basically the Flintstones parody that was inspired by the Munsters and the Addams Family, where the Flintstones have a new family that moves into the neighborhood, and it just happens to be the Frankenstein monster that's the father. The very much inspired Yvonne DiCarlo as Lily Munster type mom, and that's the Flintstones were parodying everything that was in pop culture at the time, and something like the Frankenstones was very much parodying the Munsters.
And the main conceit of the Munsters is that obviously they're like the universal monsters, but they think that they're quote unquote normal and everyone else is weirdos, but it's all the fish out of water, where the 50s and 60s Americans dealing with them are just horrified at what they're looking at. And then they look at Marilyn as being like the quote ugly one of the family, because she's obviously this beautiful blonde woman who's normal to all of the viewers watching it, but the Munsters, and then they're just going through life oblivious to the fact that they are the anomalies and the monsters of the whole thing. And many laughs were had at their expense.
You were right, Aunt Lily. Here it is. It says, last night, the police apprehended the so-called monster that has been terrorizing Mid-City Park. The monster was a known purse snatcher who disguised his features by wearing a woman's stocking over his head.
See? I told you there was no such thing as monsters.
Ran for 2 seasons, 64 to 66, 70 total episodes, Pete. I feel through my years growing up, watching it in reruns, I probably have seen all 70 episodes. Many summers and sick days probably ran through a ton of these in marathons. I think the one part of this is that the show, in some ways, it's a comfort show. Every episode felt like the previous episode. But because it was this nice 30 minutes, you knew what you were getting, just like if you were on Gilligan's Island. It's like, there's going to be hijinks, there's going to be antics. In this case, you just happen to get a little dose of the universal monsters, but as a family that you would want as your neighbors if they were in your neighborhood, because that would be fun. And you get that iconic setting. It's just kind of neat that as I was reading, the series was filmed in black and white, even though at that time, and I always remember watching reruns of The Fugitive with my dad. And I think it was like around 58 or something that you started to see I Love Lucy or Bewitched or The Fugitive. They were like in between seasons. So you might have the first or second season, now the third season of The Fugitive. Now it's in color. And the Munsters filmed in black and white, even though at that point in the mid 60s, color was available. And I think that was a smart choice because it just leans into the gothic ambiance of Dracula and Frankenstein from the 30s, just now 3 decades later in the 1960s.
Yeah, and part of that era of super formulaic television, but to your point, very nostalgic comfort watching in many ways. I don't know that this happened at the end of every episode, but it's one of those, it feels like it did, where the one normal human either figures out that they're not wearing masks or meets Herman for the first time because they're dating Marilyn, and they run out the door without opening the door, and there's the human-shaped hole in the door as they're like running away down the street. I feel like that was, if not in every episode, in 99% of the episodes of Monsters.
Oh, I tell you, we have put all of our ghoulish energies to work to build and expand a list of horror hits. I mean, stuff you can sink your teeth in. And best of all, you'll know it's an AMVET video because each and every horror film will be presented by me, the one and only. You can find my horror features in your favorite store's video department. Yeah.
One random thing that I wanted to throw out for the Munsters is, so we grew up with 900 numbers, and at the time that VHS was coming out, Grandpa Munster, Al Lewis himself, decided to not put the mantle up of being Grandpa Munster and just kept the persona going. I don't know that he was Grandpa Munster. Maybe at that point he was just Grandpa for copyright purposes, but he basically played horror host for his own VHS series where he just introduced and did riffs in horror host style of a lot of public domain horror films. He had his own 900 number. He was just around.
Hi, kids. It's me, your friend Grandpa. And what a surprise I have for you. I mean, you get your parents' permission and call my special monster phone and hear stories about all my monster friends. Like the boy with 3 heads. You see, the teacher was always trying to get him to stop talking in class. Oh, you got to hear the rest of it. So call my number, 1-900-909-4300. Oh, I almost forgot. I want to send you a glow-in-the-dark monster patch. So call now, yeah.
He was everywhere. And again, growing up in New York, one of my brushes with fame was one time I was in the city. I passed him in a crosswalk walking the other way. And I found out later because I was pretty young at the time. And I remember recognizing who it was. I'm like, it's Grandpa. But apparently that just happened all the time because he lived in the city and would just be out and about. He'd make the local news all the time. If something happened, Al Lewis, TV's Grandpa Munster, was at it again today.
Oh, hi there, kiddies. I have to tell you this. If you love Halloween the way Grandpa does, you're going to love Paper Warehouse. I mean, they have a great collection of costumes, makeup, masks, everything for a horrifying Halloween. Hey, I'll see you at Paper Warehouse.
Let's jump from New York City to the Windy City. You're welcome for that transition, folks. And as a proud citizen of Chicago, I've got to mention the Monsters of the Midway, one of the nicknames associated with the Chicago Bears.
22 years after that last world title, the city of Chicago was hit by a sweeping tide of bear mania. From the North Shore to the Gold Coast, the new Monsters of the Midway were caught up in the fever of a town gone crazy over a team.
You're the Monsters of the Midway, mean as a junkyard dog.
We're supposed to be crazy, and people think we're crazy, and once we hit the field, they're expecting something crazy.
It's like a pack of wild dogs. You know, if one of them's mean, they're all going to be mean.
Oh, yeah.
The Bears, if you're not familiar with football, let alone the Bears' history, they're a very aggressive defense and style of play. And the idea is that the Monsters of the Midway was part of the Bears' identity. You've got Singletary, Dent, Hampton, guys that would hit and were the stars of a lot of those VHS specials that the NFL does not make available anymore, with the biggest hits of the past season. Because, folks, turns out some of those hits might have had some ramifications to health later on that may be plausibly denied by the league. Who's to say? But trust me, some of the monsters of the Midway, that legendary Bears 1985 defense, may have contributed to some of those hits for sure.
Oh, no doubt. Like anyone who was anyone that watched or was a sports fan back in the mid 80s, like the Bears were like the epitome of what the NFL was. It was violent. They would beat you up and they would win with defense. And the offense was like, although the Bears had Jim McMahon, who at the time was really good, it was all about the defense stifling. And then the offense would be able to do just enough to win the game. But the defense was like really was the marquee matchup of what people were watching on TV every Sunday or going to Soldier Field to see in person. And my little anecdotal story from that was, I believe it was after, maybe it was before, I can't remember the timing of it, but the 85 Bears put out a song, famously the Super Bowl Shuffle, where they're all singing, and I guess you could liberally call it dancing. So some people have more rhythm than others on that team.
Welcome to Super Sunday. Logic says the Bears will be doing the Super Bowl Shuffle in Chicago tonight.
What do you think of football players doing a rap song and a line dance?
I didn't come here looking for trouble. I just came to do the Super Bowl Shuffle.
What the heck have we gotten ourselves into?
That year, growing up, there's junior high school, you'd have your junior high dances, and I would go with friends. I did not dance at that point, but I would dance to the Super Bowl Shuffle, and they played the Super Bowl Shuffle at that particular junior high dance. I was also at the time wearing my parachute pants, which were a brief fashion craze in the mid-'80s. They were made out of parachute material with a lot of zippers and pockets. And the pair of parachute pants that I was wearing, probably because I was eating a few too many of the Dunkin' Donuts that they would sell at the at the dance, they were a little snug. And in the midst of doing, I probably tried to do the worm or something like that at the end of the Super Bowl Shuffle. I split my parachute pants down the crack of my ass, and at the dance, mind you, and I was incredibly super shy at that point. And so I was mortified that my classmates were going to see, my white underwear sticking out of my ripped black parachute pants. I don't know how I extracted myself from the dance, but I did it somehow. Luckily, my junior high was within walking distance to my house, so I'm sure I probably just did the old backward. I couldn't moonwalk, but I probably tried to moonwalk just out the front doors and just booked it home and got into a pair of pants that actually fit me. So that's my Chicago Bear Monsters of the Midway related anecdotal story.
I'm hoping all that fabric in your pants didn't provide too much wind resistance as you were booking it back to your house feet.
Oh, it probably would have, probably would have billowed out nicely. The wind resistance probably slowed down my time by a good minute and a half. But I'm not traumatized or anything by that.
Not at all. Unlike the New England Patriots, again, folks, you don't pay for the transitions. They just come this way.
Now, they were traumatized in the
That's right. 46-10, they lost to my Chicago Bears, Super Bowl 20. And yeah, that 1985 championship season, the Super Bowl Shuffle, almost escapes gravity, escapes orbit into pop culture. You're hearing it. It's on the radio. It's super popular. And again, as a very much lifelong Chicagoan that grew up loving the Bears, the one piece I did not know, they recorded the Super Bowl Shuffle, the music and the quote unquote dancing piece to it, the shuffling, before they ever played a single snap in that Super Bowl and won.
How bad can it be? Nobody's going to hear it other than people in Chicago, right?
Super Bowl Shuffle. Why you all got here on the double to catch me doing the Super Bowl Shuffle?
It went viral.
Like wildfire.
It was playing everywhere.
And the season's not over. If we don't go to the Super Bowl, we're going to be the biggest idiots ever.
And the Bears are in deep trouble.
That's the real fear.
If it didn't work out and they lost,
you're taking a superstitious chance.
We got to win this thing, man.
All day, baby!
boom. You don't dream this stuff up. We brought a city together.
I like this Godfather!
And I think with a lot of professional players, any athlete, you have your superstitions. And for some of them, they're like, guys, this is probably this bad juju. Let's not record this before we actually get to the Super Bowl, let alone win. But hey, you know what? They talked the talk, sang the dance, and walked the walk and shuffled the shuffle.
And I will say, to point out, because they need to be pointed out, and it's no surprise, but Walter Payton, Sweetness, he held up well in the music video. Can't say that the same for everyone in that, but Walter Payton, no shame at all in the Super Bowl shuffle.
Absolutely.
We've all been staying up nights playing with this Mighty Men and Monster Maker kit. With this kit, your children can combine different chests, legs, and heads. Yes. They can color in scale, hair, or alligator skin. Very nice. They can make hundreds of monsters and heroes. Personally, I prefer the Monsters.
All right, we're going to move to a toy, Pete, a novelty, Mighty Men and the Monster Maker. So Mighty Men and the Monster Maker is this creative toy released by Tomy. And if you grew up in the 80s, you certainly saw that logo in many toy commercials.
That is a name that I had not heard in a long time, Obi-Wan Kenobi. But when I saw that in the notes, I'm like, oh my God, Tomy. Yes, of course. Tomy.
Flip, the digital game. From Tomy.
Flip and Fold Fashions comes with everything you see here. It's made by Tomy.
The Jumpster stunt cars are each sold separately. New from Tomy.
The Wasters and Cosmeter, each sold separately with its own comic book, part of the Star Wars collection. New from Tomy.
And this kit, this monster kit that you got, yes, it's jumping on the coattails of monsters and mutants, all the cool stuff that you grew up in the 1980s, certainly during the toy boom, where I think they took the reins, the governors off the toy industry, and they said, well, you want to make a 22-minute commercial, put it on Saturday morning, have a ton of highly processed sugar cereal commercials all around it to basically drive a bunch of boys and girls to Toys R Us so that they can get their parents to buy the toys for them and maybe buy them along the way. Mighty Men and the Monster Maker, yeah, go for it. No holds barred. And also, if you want to buy No Holds Barred, you can buy that too. That's available on VHS, and it features a monster truck. So you could get all the above. The cool thing about this, and I think for both of us being creatives, I did not have this, but I remember the commercial for this. Being into Marvel comics, buying the G.I. Joe comics, you were into the Star Wars comics. There's something really neat about drawing your own heroes, your own characters. And that's what it did. It was like this more crafty kit in order to make your own creatures. But the whole point is that, yeah, you could make a superhero. You could make a fantasy warrior a la Conan. You could make a monster. It didn't matter. It was just your creation and it was unique to you. There was something about this toy that just reminded me a lot of Slime Kits and those mold monster making kits at the time, and these customizable play sets where they would get you so far. But if you were a kid with imagination like we were, that would take you the rest of the way.
Yeah, it's like a good starting point for people that maybe weren't as artistically inclined or were and just wanted that initial jolt of inspiration. I definitely remember this commercial. I don't remember dying to have this, which is odd because I feel like this would have been right up my alley. And people can look up the commercial for it on YouTube, but this is it's like an exquisite corpse in toy form. And I think a lot of people might know what that is, but it's like the surrealists in the 20s started this art project where you've got the three levels, like the head, the torso, and then the legs. Each artist does a different piece, and then you reveal the exquisite corpse at the end. You kind of see what you're creating, but it's broken up into three parts where you can take the body of a lizard creature, the torso of a griffin or something like that, and the head of a human or something else, and create your own being, creature, beast, humanoid from that. So yeah, I forget what they advertise it as, but hundreds of different combinations of what you could throw together to make all these different creatures and beings to add to your personal artistic collection.
And what monster card carrying kid wouldn't want a humanoid lizard griffin hybrid of their own creation, Pete? My answer would be every kid would want that.
And I would name it Griffin Done because it was finished as it was done.
Hold on to your hats. The big one is coming to the Silverdome this Saturday night, 8 p.m. WKBD, TV 50, and 101 FM, WRIF. Welcome to Metro Chevy Dealers U.S. Hot Rod 7th Annual Thrill Show Spectacular. See Screaming Mud Bog funny cars side by side. Then the nation's top monsters are out to climb and crush them on the cars. Hollywood stuntman Brian Carson will attempt his 5-story mid-air collision, plus demolition derby and funny car tug-of-war. Tickets now at all Ticketmaster outlets and the Silverdome box office this Saturday night, 8 p.m. Pontiac Silverdome. It's Crash-O-Rama.
All right, we're going to move to another staple of the 80s, Pete, our heyday, monster trucks. I know that it could be a little bit of a stretch, especially with some of the ones that we've brought up so far, but definitely something that rode the popularity that inspired toys, arcade games, cartoons, video games for sure. These big oversized vehicles, they're literally, folks, just monster trucks. Not being a car person, I believe they have reinforced suspensions, really powerful engines, and they're designed for racing and stunts. And if you grew up in the 80s, it was nigh impossible to watch a stretch of TV without seeing a commercial for the Time Life series of books about mystics and mythical dimensions, and bookended by a number of monster truck rallies that were coming to your hometown. And Pete, I believe they were more than happy to sell you the whole seat,
but you'll only need the edge.
That's a setup, folks. That's what we call that in the business. Have you ever gone to a monster truck show?
I was going to ask you the same thing. I have not. I was never a big car person other than I could ride the shit out of a big wheel when I was 5 years old. But that's not even a car. But there you have it. No, but there was a weird fascination is too strong of a word, but when the commercial would come on and you're featuring the legendary Bigfoot, watch as it crushes 10, 20, 30 cars. And I'd be that's interesting. I have no desire to see that in person, but the commercial makes it sound like it could be a fun time. My questioning was more going to, because when these things got super popular, they weren't playing your local Knights of Columbus hall. They would be at hockey arenas like the Nassau Coliseum, coming to the Nassau Coliseum. So, okay, I know the circus comes there and they just kind of cover the ice and put the circus stuff down. But how are they getting all that dirt and the hills and stuff that Bigfoot is riding over? That was where my brain was going, was how are this logistically happening here, rather than, oh, it'd be kind of cool to see this giant truck crush a bunch of cars.
Young Pete Charbonneau trying to do some problem solving for a world that didn't need it, Pete. They just wanted to see big old monster truck with big old tires.
They did. Yeah. And I'm guessing that's what people got.
Again, these commercials were just on all the time that I feel like if we did talk to folks that we grew up with, we would probably find a good portion of them were in our group, folks that saw the commercials and never saw it. But I don't know about you, Pete. Every commercial I saw had stands filled with people. So that other group of people that we knew from the 80s that grew up, they were there and they were watching monster truck rallies because someone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no doubt. It was very popular for a period of time. I have several questions now that I'm thinking about it, because I'm and again, we're coming at it from not car fans, so this might just hit differently. But if I'm attending one of these back in the day, okay, I get they're going to wheel out Bigfoot now. It's going to go up on the back wheels and slam down on some cars. But to me, that's okay. That's a couple of minutes because you do a big introduction, you build it up, Bigfoot does its thing. That's probably over the 30 seconds or a minute. What's the rest of the program look like? Is it just funny cars? Is there a demolition derby going on there? Downtown Freddie Brown is driving like the pace car and he gets crushed? Probably, most likely, definitely.
Race Fan! Your Greater Metro Chevy dealers present the Coors Motor Spectacular! Super Series Mud Racing Championship! And the Super Bowl National! February 5th and 6th at Denver Coliseum!
And my other question, and I don't know that you'll know the answer to this, but I feel like the truck Bigfoot was like copyrighted or trademarked in some way, where it was almost like what they would do with SeaWorld was Shamu. There's only one Shamu, but they would call the orcas at the parks across the country Shamu, but they weren't really Shamu.
I will say that Bigfoot is like the Hulk Hogan, I think, of the monster truck industry. And I know we've already gone through our monster trivia, but it's monster truck trivia, Pete. And guess what? You're the contestant. And I've got one question for you as we wrap up monster trucks. I'm going to throw 4 names of potential monster trucks at you. This is just a yes or no question, Pete. Are any of these actual names of monster trucks? Gravedigger, Maximum Destruction, Monster Mutt, and El Toro Loco. Are any of these monster trucks, Pete? Not as famous as Bigfoot, certainly, but still part of the monster truck group picture.
God, I would only be guessing, but Gravedigger sounds familiar to me for some reason. That might have been on one of those commercials, so my lizard brain might be, the synapses are firing off that. If any of them, I would guess Gravedigger.
The good thing is all 4 of them are actually monster truck names, so your lizard brain is firing on all cylinders, and you are 100% correct. You are the winner of Monster Truck Trivia. Also, that is the end of the show. That was both the pilot and the series finale. Goodbye.
We'll sell you the whole lizard brain, but you'll only need the edge.
The amazing, the astounding, the unbelievable Truckosaurus! 20 tons and 4 stories of car-crunching, fire-breathing, prehistoric insanity!
Whoa!
One night only. One night only. One night only at the Springfield Speedway this Saturday.
If you miss this, you'd better be dead or in jail.
And if you're in jail, break out. Be there, be there, be there.
All right, the last monster grab bag for this episode that we're going to talk about. Well, we're not going to talk about it, Pete. We're going to let a former guest, Chris LaMartina, share one of his passions that happens to be monster related, because we on the Fan2Fan Podcast love to hear from fans about the things they are passionate about. And very fair to say that Chris and his wife and creative partner, Melissa LaMartina, aka Aurora Borealis, as she's known in various circles, are very passionate about all things spooky. They've worked on quite a number of different things for sale by exorcists, but fair to say Chris is very well known for the WNUF Halloween special that is very much a celebration of Halloween, that eerie evening of trick or treats.
Next on CBS.
Give me.
Celebrate the spookiest of holidays with the Emmy-winning Garfield's Halloween Adventure. Next.
That special time of year where you get those specific TV specials that the WNUF Halloween special is very much inspired by. And one of those specials very much fits into the monster grab bag theme. But first, Pete, did you have any memories of watching Halloween specials growing up?
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite holidays, and has been since I was a kid. Yeah, I have memories of going over my friend Billy Canamere's house that was the first real Halloween party that I attended, complete with bobbing apples. I don't think I bobbed for an apple before or since, but I did that night. So I feel like that checked that off my list. It was awesome.
So let's kick it to Chris. From what you shared online, you are now the proud owner sitting on a shelf, a holy grail of yours, a 16mm copy of
Mad Monster Party!
Mad Monster Party!
Starring Boris Karloff, and in order of their appearance,
Dracula,
Frankenstein,
the werewolf,
the Hunchback,
the mummy,
Dr. Jekyll,
Mr. Hyde,
and in order of his disappearance,
the Invisible Man.
Also starring Phyllis Diller as the hostess with the least.
Mad Monster Party!
last time we were talking, we were chatting about our love for Halloween specials. Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, the Garfield Halloween special, Halloween Tree, the stuff we grew up on, the stuff that's like part of the DNA of the stuff that you guys make. And when you're on your porch and you're playing that 16mm copy of Mad Monster Party and kids are coming and trick-or-treating, that's heaven, right, for you guys?
I mean, Halloween at our house is like, well, it's funny. Years ago, we used to go places for Halloween.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, we realized, like, that's not really what Halloween should be. And it's never going to live up to the expectation of what we want Halloween to be.
Is it because the places you were going had less decorations than what you already had in your house?
No, I mean, for me, it's like I didn't like the vibe of like ending up at like a punk bar on Halloween and people are in half-ass costumes and like everyone's drinking shitty beer. And instead, like, the magic of Halloween in my head is partially the trick-or-treating adventure, right? So what we do in our house is, obviously the front porch is very decorated. I probably have to do the graveyard this weekend. Basically, I guess 3 o'clock or so, we start getting trick-or-treaters, 4 o'clock. Yeah.
A little early with little kids.
Yeah. So we have 3 offerings for kids. We have our traditional candy. Then we've made over the last couple of years treat bags of like toy erasers, things like. Then we have bags of like savory stuff, like some bags of chips, and that's because ideally, if it doesn't rain or depending on the weather is, we'll show the movies, and then we put up blankets and people can sit on the porch and watch.
And then we have shots for the parents.
Yeah, it's nice.
Case in point, we were asked to judge a costume contest on Halloween.
Yeah.
They were like, well, it'll wrap up by like 8 o'clock so you can still get home. Like, oh no. Because there was one year, a couple years ago, where I went and judged an in-person costume contest as Aurora. And I rushed home and like trick-or-treating was already about half over and it just sucked. I just wanted to be here. For me, it's like Halloween is amazing. I love it as an adult. What really matters to me is like seeing kids come up. And we don't pull that bullshit with like, if you're not in a costume, you don't get candy. Because some kids can't afford costume.
Yeah,
and like, they should be allowed to trick-or-treat. And I hate that gatekeeping of Halloween. It's just fucking candy.
Yeah.
Like,
and I don't want it in my house after. Plus, we have a lot of friends come over, especially with kids, and we'll order pizza and stuff. It's a big party.
Won't you tell me, baby, what happened at that monster party last night? Monster party.
My favorite part is using the projector. So many kids are like, what the hell is that?
Is that something that you did with your family, Chris, when you were young?
So when I was in college, I was a projectionist at this small independent theater. It's called the Heritage. It was this sort of like very Afrocentric. Like the owner of the theater was this ex-Black Panther, and he would show these like really basically crazy stuff, like a lot of like blaxploitation movies and things like that. But like let me do like horror movie nights. He had tattoo parties and would show Superfly. At that time period, I started collecting a lot of 60mm film prints, at least the ones that I could afford in the early 2000s on like the budget of a guy working at a movie theater. So I had a projector that was essentially about to be thrown out from a local school. That was a really nice projector because the 16mm projectors at that time were like what they were using to show education films. And luckily my parents never threw out what I saved, either the film prints or that projector. And when we bought a house, I was finally like, oh my God, we have this backyard. We could do movie nights again. I found this guy who used to be a marketing dude at a fairly well-known TV station, nationally syndicated television station, that would let me fill up my car as many prints as would I fill up for $100 each time. It's just one of the situations where like I became very passionate about tracking down Halloween-themed shorts because that's what we show on the front porch.
The night is still young. Enjoy yourselves. Have a frightful time, and I shall see you all tomorrow. Well, I leave you now in the capable hands of little Tibia and the Fibia.